Digital ad revenue is expected to exceed $600 billion worldwide this year. And yet, despite such a lucrative and growing industry, it seems like it's never been more challenging to be a paid ads manager or consultant. We talked in a previous episode about iOS changes, cookies going away, and all the other challenges and changes facing digital advertising. As a result, advertisers are not only turning to new strategies, they're employing new tools and leveraging AI any way they can to find the seam. Where should you turn your attention and what advanced advertising strategies can we reliably turn to? That's what we're covering in today's episode of the MarTech Show.
The past is gone. Now is the future.
This is the MarTech Show, exploring today's marketing technology solutions. Social media, artificial intelligence, augmented reality.
Now is the future.
Content, SEO, email, analytics, listening, advertising, and more. I'm your host, Mike Alton, and I'm joined by agency owner and technology futurist Robin Diamond. Each episode explores the latest developments in marketing technology and shares new solutions and innovative approaches that you need to know about to grow your business today. And now, the rest of today's episode. Welcome back to the MarTech Show, where Robin and I get to dish on what's shiny and new in the MarTech space and then do a deep dive into a specific platform or solution that can help you and your business today. Now, Robin wasn't able to make it today, but I do have some really interesting news. Google's annual developer conference, I/O, took place this week, and among the announcements was a huge development that'll impact every business and marketer. Google is making big changes to how search fundamentally works. Most of the updates announced, like the ability to ask really complex questions and using search to plan meals and vacations, won't be available unless you opt in to Search Labs, the company's platform that lets people try out experimental features. But a big new feature that Google is calling AI overviews, in which the company has been testing for a year now, is finally rolling out to millions of people in the US. Google Search will now present AI generated answers on top of the results by default. And the company says that it will bring the feature to more than 1 billion users around the world by the end of the year. This is the end of Google search traffic as we know it. Drop a comment and let us know what you think. Now, another bedrock of marketing for years has been the ability to identify audiences who visited our website or took some action on your app and target them with high intent advertising. But as I mentioned at the outset of the show, and as we talked about in an earlier episode with Customers.ai founder Larry Kim, cookies and other identifying facets of advertising are gone or going away. How do we identify and reach niche audiences today? That's exactly what Maryna Burushkina is going to talk to us about. Maryna is the founder and CEO at Growth Channel AI, as well as a digital marketing consultant and trainer. She's helped hundreds of multinational companies such as Alliance and Philips reshape their marketing to drive accelerated growth over the last decade. And she is building an AI technology to solve marketing inefficiencies, and using the power of data and micro segmentation. Hello, Maryna. Welcome to the show.
Hi, Mike. Glad to be here.
So glad to have you. Let's set the stage a little bit, right? How would you summarize the challenges that are facing digital advertisers today and in the coming months?
Yeah, that's a big question. A lot of people are talking about it from all the different angles, but I think there are like few things that I can summarize it on. The first one is, of course, cookies going away, like you mentioned, is like a big deal for a lot of companies that have been relying on third-party data segments to really identify and target those audiences. And there are a number of alternative ways to really reach those customers. And hopefully I'll share that in a bit with you all. The second one is definitely viewability and measurement. So we want to identify, okay, did the people we were targeting actually saw our ad that we spend the money on? And two, the measurement is like, okay, so we targeted this thousands, millions of users. Did they eventually were the ones who signed up, or did they go visit our store or purchase something? Those are the things that are really advertisers are struggling with, and there are different workarounds to really tackle those. But I would say those are the top 3 topics that I hear our advertisers bring up every single day. So really coming down to targeting with the cookies going away, the viewability, making sure that people actually saw the ads that we were supposed to see it and that we paid for, and the measurement of those results.
Yeah, we're seeing a lot of the same feedback, a lot of the same concerns and challenges and struggles in our own communities. And shout out to Deb and Stefan Peterson who are watching in our Facebook group right now. For those of you who want to tune in, definitely post your questions. I'll bring those up to Maryna. But what are some of the advanced strategies and solutions that might be available to advertisers now, kind of from a general perspective?
Yeah, so let's say we talk about like kind of the first part, right? So how you can actually reach the audiences outside of using those third-party segments. So there are a number of ways. At Growth Channel, we like to bring up the geofencing capabilities. Of course, it's not the only one, but geofencing is a big one. You can do real-time geofencing of target strategic locations, or even do it retroactively going back up to 12 months in the past to really identify maybe those are industry events that people may have attended, or maybe those are store locations that they go or do not go to, and a few other parameters that you can layer on top of that. Another big one is contextual. So really identifying what kind of keywords are present on pages that you're reading, or what kind of shows you're watching, what are you really interested in. And sometimes it's like, we talk about Nike shoes and then we see them on our Instagram feed or elsewhere. So contextual targeting does work pretty well. And another pretty big one is also predictive targeting. For example, Distillery is one of the data companies out there that have come up with a great algorithm for identifying and really learning from the first party data set which sites do they visit at what time, which part of the site they're more engaged with, to really identify those next placement of the ads without really knowing anything else about the user's demographics. It's like, what is the next site my target audience will visit at what time, and which part of the site they're more engaged with, to really hit and place your ad right there. So the third one is maybe a little bit more advanced, but definitely one to look out for. The CTRs and engagement rates have been amazing from some of the case studies, which is 2 to 3 times X the general statistics. So those are the 3 kind of top of mind that to answer your question, Mike.
Yeah, those are fascinating. And I'm seeing more and more AI being leveraged to create some really immersive and dynamic ads that would be living on other people's websites, right? So banners or some other kind of embedded ad, but it knows where you've been, and it knows what your preferences are, and it's able to change the ad to correspond with who you are and what it knows about you real time, which is just fascinating. But I want to get into how Growth Channel can help, because we've kind of talked broadly, but let's get to specifically, how can Growth Channel play a role for those of us who want to be successful at advertising today?
Yeah, so I mean, at Growth Channel, we really rely on micro targeting and really targeting very niche audiences to be able to hit them anywhere they go in the programmatic space. So outside of the social and search, there are so many other channels that are surrounding us. Everything from mobile apps, when we read the news, listen to our favorite podcast like Spotify and Pandora, or watch Netflix, Hulu shows, or pass by digital billboards. So a lot of the other channels in the digital spectrum out there, and everything from audio ads, video ads, maybe banner ads, more traditional, but even like native advertising on news and articles type of sites. All of those are embedded within Growth Channel, and our micro-targeting solution goes really kind of the next level. So let's say your advertiser is one of the stores. So using geofencing, for example, we can identify people who go to the competitor's store who live within the area, who are interested in buying that next pair of shoes because they're browsing the web around those latest shoe trends or something like this, you can really identify and target those people on those premium channels outside of the social and search ecosystem. So that's just like kind of one of the things to describe it, how we tackle it. But yes, we really focus on micro targeting. So you can have multiple campaigns hyper segmented into those micro targeted audiences and really understand those audiences even before you launch those campaigns to make sure those are the exact ones you want to be targeting.
It's fascinating. Did I hear you say drive by a digital billboard?
Yes. Yes. So digital billboards is one of the channels we have. It's getting more and more popular, digital out of home advertising. And you can think about it like billboards that are digital, like changing screens. You can think about the ones you see at the mall, the digital stands, or the ones at the parking lot. You have the TV screens within fitness centers. And even at bars and restaurants, you have those TV screens as well. So digital out of home is a whole new game, and is definitely like lots of supply side partners that are all embedded within our ecosystem. I think we have about 20 supply side partners that are embedded within digital out of home advertising that are all available through Growth Channel. So yeah, this is definitely up and coming channel. I would say still comes after connected TV, after CTV advertising, but still on a big rising trend, together with audio advertising as well.
Wow, that is really interesting. I'm glad I asked you about that and that you mentioned it, because I wouldn't have thought about the panel displays in a mall or in a bar or someplace else that you might walk by. When you say billboard, I'm thinking, the traditional vinyl placements on the side of the highway, that because I'm old enough. I used to buy that kind of thing for companies I used to work for, and it was just all about the traffic volume, right? This placement would get so many eyes or vehicles per month, and that was what the pricing was like. And you're telling me we can do so much more now, which
You
is
can target
really
very
fascinating.
specific audiences or even events. For example, Inbound is coming back in September in Boston.
Yeah.
So you can just do, and it's at the convention center. I've been there. So it's like a huge convention center, lots of stands, billboards, TV screens, and you can just target during the duration of the event and capture all of those tens of thousands of people right there. So yeah, that's like one of the easiest ways to capture them.
Okay, I'm literally writing this down because that is our target audience. So we will be looking into that. Thanks for sharing that. Now, going back to just Growth Channel overall, are there different segments, industries, or verticals that are maybe a better fit for Growth Channel than others?
I like to work with like B2C advertisers just because of the scale and how big the audience could be, even though you segment them in multiple different chunks. B2B is also interesting, like events targeting is pretty big on our platform, but I would say the audience sizes are always much smaller, right? I don't have like my most favorite. I do love seeing the kind of really ROAS results for our e-commerce advertisers. And I really love to see our retailers advertising when we tell them like, oh, these people actually showed up at your store after seeing our ad. So I love seeing those. So most probably like if I have to pick some, those are my favorites. But overall, it really depends also on the product or service that is being promoted. We also have a number of nonprofits advertising in our platform, some government campaigns for advocacy. So there is like a whole lot of different things going on around like different targeting strategies to really reach those niche audiences. But yeah, I would say retailers and e-commerce is probably some of my favorites.
That makes a lot of sense. I would not want me as a customer, an ideal customer, because our buying cycle is months, and it's so hard to attribute to any one single thing, particularly a billboard ad. Even if it's highly targeted and well placed, still, how would you attribute it that'd be really hard. But yeah, a B2C retailer would be so much easier. So folks, if you're just tuning in, we're talking with Maryna about how marketers can compensate for the loss of cookies and iOS data and still reach target audiences. We just have to keep rolling with the punches as platforms, technology, and even something as fundamental today as search changes. So I'm wondering, what happens if I search for a social media management tool today? Let's find out.
So I'm hanging out here in Paris. Behind me, the iconic Eiffel Tower, which got me on Google. I did a search, what are the top tower destinations in the world? Number 3, Big Ben. Number 2, the Leaning Tower of Pisa. And number 1, the Eiffel Tower. So you would always think I need to go to the Eiffel Tower, but the fact is all 3 of those destinations are amazing experiences. So think of towers the way you would social media. What's the right social media fit for you? When I look at the price point and the top players in the space for what you get, the most enterprise features, there's 3 players. There's Hootsuite, there's Sprout Social, and there's Agorapulse. So why is Agorapulse the right tower for you? Well, it's funny you ask. So I went to G2 because it's all the user reviews. What do we get are 5 reasons that matter to you as a marketer. Number 1, it says that we actually are the easiest one to use of those 3. Number 2, we have the best support, and you know that support is what really drives the machine when you're really frustrated. Number 3, pricing for teams. All right, you got a team? You want pricing that's affordable, that doesn't keep nickel and diming you? Agorapulse. Number 4, product direction. You are passionate about your social media features and functions. We're number 1. And number 5, campaign optimization. Are your campaigns working? Can you make them better? You tell me. G2 says those 5 reasons are what make Agorapulse the right choice over Hootsuite, over Sprout Social. Think of us as the Eiffel Tower of social media. My name is Daryl. I'm with Agorapulse.
All right. So getting back to Growth Channel, if someone wanted to get started with Growth Channel today, what would an advertiser need to know or have in place already to take advantage of your platform?
Yeah, a few things. 1, a landing page. Ideally optimized for your KPI. So for example, if you want to drive conversions for leads, make sure you have a landing page that's optimized for conversion. Or if it's a purchase, make sure it's easy to purchase your product on the page you're driving traffic to. So that's 1. The second one is the creative or ad. And like I mentioned shortly earlier, we support multiple different formats. So everything from traditional banners to videos, audio, ad tags, native ads, or HTML5. So we support all the standard programmatic ad formats that you can easily upload inside the platform. And 3 is the budget. Make sure you know the budget and the KPI that you're going for. Input it into your campaign. There is no minimum. So it's pretty easy to set up any campaign, even on the premium channels. So yeah, those are kind of the 3 things to keep in mind. If you're looking to track purchases or conversions, we highly recommend you place the pixels on that landing page you have there, and potentially other pages on the site, depending on what the campaign journey is. But yeah, those are really it. It's pretty easy to get started. Some people get started in like 15 minutes.
Terrific. Now, you've talked about working directly with retail brands and even some other industries. What about agencies? Are agencies using Growth Channel? Any particular nuance there to help them?
Oh, yes. We love working with agencies. In fact, most of our campaign activations are happening through agencies, and they're really the experts in advertising. Oftentimes when we speak directly to the brands, they are like, don't know anything about it or very little. Although sometimes we would work with internal marketing teams, but it's rarely the time when they would engage with us directly. Most of the time, we would either direct them to an agency partner, or an agency would be the one that would already manage the client campaign. So agencies is definitely the gold here. Few things that agencies tend to like on our platform. 1, all the programmatic ecosystem is built inside Growth Channel. That means all the premium demand-side platforms, if you're running programmatic ads, so everything from the Trade Desk to DV360, Xandr, Yahoo DSP, Criteo, and many others are all built inside Growth Channel. So you have access to all of that premium inventory, all within our platform. You also have all the DMP, major DMP partners like Nielsen, Bombora, Oracle, Bluekai, and many others also available through Growth Channel. You can build those custom audiences when you need them, build attribution and measurement when you need it. So everything you need for programmatic is already inside Growth Channel. So our agencies save about 30% of their resources because everything is already connected inside the ecosystem. And another thing, is pretty easy to add a margin if you're charging your clients a certain margin based on the media spend. So you can add it within gross channel, so it's reflected within the reports. And we also have a white label possibility for those reports if you're interested in doing something like this and putting it on a custom subdomain, changing the colors from green to purple, blue, whatever. So it's pretty easy to set up. It takes about 5 minutes.
I want to go back to something you just said because it's extremely powerful. And I don't know if it's really clear to those of us watching and listening. You talk about how using Growth Channel, you already have these other platforms built in. For most of us who are doing our own advertising, that we would typically have our own Facebook ads manager, our own TikTok ads manager, our own YouTube ads manager. And it's so uncommon then to go into all these other areas that you talked about because you have to create accounts on each individual one. So just to reemphasize, you said you already support all these other platforms. And you talked about CTV earlier. Do you support CTV as well? And
Oh, yes.
talk about that.
Yeah, so people can advertise on CTV and even linear TV, digital out of home, audio ads like streaming music, podcasts, streaming radio. You can advertise in mobile apps, in websites, like Forbes, Fast Company, etc. You can even advertise in game, so like Twitch, for example. So the sky is kind of the limit. There are so many different advertising channels outside of the traditional social and search. So anything programmatic, you have it inside.
That's amazing. So to give a little bit of analogy, we're using StreamYard right now as our studio. We stream into SQL for the webinar platform. We stream into the Facebook group. And if I wanted to, I could stream to YouTube and Twitter and LinkedIn and all these other platforms that allow that. So Growth Channel is very similar just from an advertising perspective. Creating the ads on Growth Channel, and you're distributing them to all these different platforms simultaneously.
Yeah, and if you want to be on Hulu or Netflix or whatever, you can even pick your favorite show you want to advertise on or movie.
Yeah, which is actually one of the reasons I asked that, because I'd been trying to advertise on Hulu for a long time and couldn't get accepted because I'm personally not a big company. I'm very, very small. So I was not meeting their thresholds requirements and that sort of thing. So that's
There's
definitely
no
something we
minimum
wanna
with
look
Girls
into.
Channel. Should sign up.
Awesome. So what advice do you have for advertisers in general who are struggling to keep up with all these things that are going on? The lack of cookies that I know Google has pushed that back a year or so, but it's the sort of Damocles. It's just hanging over our heads. We know the cookies are going to be gone at some point. It's just a matter of time. What advice do you have for them?
Yeah, definitely don't spend too much time thinking about, oh, my cookies are going away, but spend a little bit more time really emphasizing, what is my audience? Like, who are they? What do they like? Where do they hang out? What do they listen? What do they read? To really understand their persona. And once you have done that part, it will be pretty easy to identify contextual targeting or targeting them on specific sites and channels. Even like looking at targeting them maybe at different locations that they visit, or even doing that predictive modeling in place. You can also easily build lookalike audiences if you have a significant first-party data that you can use as a source data to identify those. So there are plenty of opportunities outside of relying on those cookies that you can really target and reach that audience. And outside of that, I would also focus on, like, once you're ready to run that campaign, one thing that we always talk to our advertisers, which is pretty simple, but not everyone thinks about it as much, is what is your objective and can you measure it? That's so important. You have to know it before you start running your campaign. Am I optimizing for awareness? So am I going to be just looking at impressions and clicks and engagement? Or am I optimizing for traffic to my site? Okay, let's place that pixel on the website to track and measure it and see how it ends up. Or are we optimizing for conversions? You really need to know, what is that KPI? Am I looking for $25 CPA or $100 CPA target? Think about it before you launch any campaign, and make your choice of the ad creative, channel, audience, also based on that objective and the target. Is so important, but oftentimes overlooked.
Terrific advice. We've got a question from our live audience from Damian Hardy, and he asks, Pixels are often dependent on third-party cookies. Do we need to move everything to Conversions API with Consent 2.0? I'm not sure if you're familiar with that, and if you're not, that's okay. But then he says, what about smaller advertiser who can't afford that? Do you have advice for Damien?
Yes. So with Gross Channel, it's one very small script tag that needs to be placed. We do not run on cookies, so don't worry about that. We work mainly on device IDs and then cross-device ID match. So we built our own audience graph where we can identify the device matches from CTV to mobile to audio, and then efficiently target that specific target audience and measure the impact down to your website purchases, as an example, or lead signups, or whatever is your objective there.
Terrific. Thank you, Damien. I hope that answered your question. I just got one more question for you, Maryna. What's on your roadmap? What's coming with Growth Channel? I know your product team's not listening, and that's fine. So you're not going to be giving anything away. That this is just you and me talking. What's coming in the rest of 2024?
Yeah, so I would say in the next quarter or so, we plan to expand with e-commerce apps. So we're looking into potentially getting into the Shopify app marketplace or BigCommerce app shop marketplace. So definitely want to make it easier for those e-commerce brands to start advertising with Growth Channel, but also more like next year, we do plan to scale towards social, because it's becoming harder and harder to target the right people on social media, like Meta ads, for example, and then measure those results down to, let's say, purchases, etc. That is interconnected also with maybe some other channels of yours. That being said, it's more like a longer term, because this structure of, technically speaking, of the setup for social media ads, also because you as advertisers will likely connect your own account versus having programmatic all built in, is slightly different. So it's more like a Q1 thing if you're lucky, but definitely something that we're exploring.
Terrific. That sounds really fascinating. We'll have to have you back once you've got your BigCommerce connected. We've already talked with them on our other retail podcast, because that's an audience that we're talking to a lot. We talked about Feedonomics and using those kinds of tools to keep your products up to date on all of those different platforms, and having a platform like Growth Channel that's having those ads going out programmatically and driving folks to your channels where they can go to your online shop, not even to go to your website, but they can just go to your shop, your Facebook shop, your TikTok shop, and so on, and make that purchase. Is going to be phenomenal. So we'll have you back then. Maryna, you've been fantastic. This has been such an interesting conversation. For folks who want to learn more, who want to get more involved, where can they go to reach out and ask questions?
Yeah, definitely check our website. And if you're interested to learn more, you can schedule a demo. And if you want to geek out with me personally, you can connect with me on LinkedIn. It's my full name, Maryna Burushkina. So just connect.
Terrific. We'll have all the links in the show notes. And for folks, if you want to continue this conversation, join us in the Social Media Pulse community. We'd love to have you there. And by the way, we had a special podcast-only episode that you have to listen to. It's with Scott Brinker, the Chief MarTech and the Chief Ecosystem Officer of HubSpot. His annual MarTech Landscape Report just dropped. Over 14,000 marketing technology apps. And it's just mind-boggling, not only how many apps, but what's happening, how AI is driving this explosion of apps. This is a conversation you're not going to want to miss, because Scott breaks it all down for us. He talks about composability and so many topics that, frankly, as marketers, we need to understand. So subscribe to that podcast wherever you enjoy great podcasts. Meanwhile, we'll see you next time. Thank you for listening to another episode of the MarTech Show, hosted by Robin Diamond and Mike Alton, powered by AgoraPulse, the #1 rated social media management solution, which you can learn more about at agorapulse.com. If you want to make sure you're part of our audience during live weekly broadcasts, take a look at our calendar at agorapulse.com/calendar, or click the subscribe button in your email once you register for any of these events. Is there a particular tool or topic you'd like to see us talk about? Or perhaps you think your solution should be featured? Email me at mike@agorapulse.com.